The council chamber stretched wide like an arena, with seats rising in circular tiers around the speaking floor. Representatives from 47 species sat in those seats, their forms ranging from insect-like creatures to beings made of crystallized light. At the center stood Ambassador Elena Vasquez, her gray suit perfectly pressed, her dark hair pulled back in a simple style. She looked small down there, surrounded by aliens who saw humans as useful but ultimately harmless. Elena's voice carried clearly through the translation devices embedded in every seat. The Crethean Empire has once again violated the territorial boundaries agreed upon in the Outer Rim Accords. 3 days ago, their warships destroyed mining station Theta-7. 42 human workers died in the attack. This marks the 47th incident in the past 18 months. She paused, letting the number sink in. 47 attacks. 47 times humanity had come to this chamber seeking justice through words. The Crethean ambassador rose from his seat. Thraknor stood nearly 8 feet tall, his scaled body covered in ritual scarring that marked him as a veteran of countless battles. His species had ruled through military might for thousands of years. They respected strength, and to them humans had shown none. The station was in disputed territory, Thraknor said, his voice a low growl that the translators rendered into flat, emotionless words. If humans cannot defend their claims, they have no right to them. This is the way of the galaxy. Several council members nodded. It was an old argument, one that had worked for the Cretheans many times before. Elena took a breath. She had given this speech so many times she could recite it in her sleep. Always the same result. Always more deaths, more patience required, more restraint. The Outer Rim Accords clearly define accords written by the weak to protect the weak, Thraknor interrupted. Your kind speaks endless words because you lack the courage to act. You hide behind treaties and procedures while true warriors take what they deserve. Laughter rippled through some sections of the chamber. Not cruel laughter exactly. More like adults chuckling at a child's tantrum. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 300 years, and in that time, they had never once responded to aggression with violence. They negotiated, they compromised, they absorbed losses and filed complaints. Elena felt the familiar weight of anger in her chest, the desire to scream at these fools who thought patience meant weakness. Instead, she smiled. It was a cold smile, the kind that never reached her eyes. Very well, she said quietly. Let the record show that humanity has formally requested council intervention in accordance with Article 7 of the Founding Charter. We have presented evidence of 47 unprovoked attacks. We have sought peaceful resolution at every opportunity. We have shown remarkable patience. She looked directly at Thraknor, but patience, Ambassador, should not be mistaken for inability. I strongly urge the Crethean Empire to cease all hostile actions against human territory immediately. This is your final warning. Thraknor laughed, a barking sound that echoed through the chamber. Or what, human? Will you file another complaint? Write another strongly worded letter? Elena gathered her papers with careful, deliberate movements. The Crethean Empire has 72 hours to withdraw from all human territory and release any captured human personnel. After that time, humanity will respond in accordance with our own security protocols. The chamber erupted in confused murmuring. This was new. Humans didn't make ultimatums. They asked, they pleaded, they negotiated. They didn't demand. The council chairman, an ancient being called a Valorian who resembled a floating jellyfish, pulsed with bioluminescent concern. Ambassador Vasquez, surely we can continue diplomatic discussions. There is no need for threats, and it's not a threat, Chairman. It's a statement of fact. 72 hours. Good day. Elena turned and walked from the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Her aide, a young man named Marcus, hurried after her. Ambassador, do we have authorization for this? He whispered urgently once they were in the corridor. Get Admiral Chen on a secure channel, Elena said, not breaking stride. Tell him the vote failed. Tell him we've issued the final warning. But the civilian government gave me authority to handle this situation as I saw fit 3 weeks ago after the colony ship massacre. They're tired of watching our people die, Marcus. They're just too afraid to say it publicly. Marcus swallowed hard. So it's really happening? Elena stopped walking and turned to face him. For the first time in years, he saw something other than diplomatic calm in her eyes. He saw anger, yes, but also something deeper, something that made him take an involuntary step backward. For 300 years, we've played their game, she said softly. "We've been the reasonable ones, the peaceful ones. We've let them think we're weak because it was easier than showing them the truth, but they've mistaken our choice for inability. They think we can't fight back, can we?" Marcus asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Elena's smile was sad now, weighted with knowledge that Marcus couldn't fully understand. "Oh, Marcus, that's the problem. We absolutely can. We've just been very, very careful not to." She pulled out her personal communicator and typed a short message. 6 words that would change everything. "Tell Chen the leash is off." She hit send and continued walking, leaving Marcus standing alone in the corridor, wondering what kind of beast his species had been keeping chained all this time. Keston had always loved the archives. The young Xenothari scholar spent most of her time in the deep levels of the Galactic Council's historical database, where information from thousands of worlds was stored and catalogued. Her species was known for their curiosity and their perfect memory, which made them ideal historians and researchers. Today she was investigating something that had bothered her for weeks. She had been compiling a comprehensive history of all Council member species when she noticed something odd about humanity's admission records. There were gaps. Large sections of their military history were sealed with the highest level of security classification. Every other species had open records. Wars, conflicts, technological development, all available for research and study. But Earth's pre-contact military history was locked behind encryption that required unanimous Council approval to access. Why would a species known for transparency hide their past? Keston's curiosity burned hotter than her common sense. She was good with computers, better than most. Her long fingers danced across the holographic interface, running decryption algorithms she probably shouldn't have known how to use. It took 3 days, but finally, the files opened. The first document was titled Unification War's Final Report. It was written in 17 different Earth languages, each translation accompanied by warning symbols she didn't recognize. She chose the English version and began to read. 2 hours later, she stopped reading and vomited into the waste disposal unit. The images were worse than the words. Humans fighting humans with weapons that made modern galactic military technology look like children's toys. Cities turned to ash in seconds. Biological weapons that killed millions, something called nuclear weapons that could destroy entire regions and leave the land poisoned for generations. But it wasn't just the weapons. It was the scale. Earth had fought 2 global wars that killed over 100 million people. 100 million. Some Council species didn't even have populations that large. Kessa then kept reading, unable to stop despite the horror. She learned about trench warfare, where humans had fought for years over strips of land only a few miles wide. She learned about strategic bombing, where cities full of civilians were deliberately targeted. She learned about concentration camps and genocides and a dozen other atrocities that humanity had inflicted upon itself. Then she found the really frightening files. Project Ragnarok Planetary Sterilization Protocols. Operation Dust Self-Replicating War Machine Specifications. The Geneva Checklist prohibited weapons. Systems. The Geneva Checklist was the worst. It wasn't a list of weapons humanity had agreed to never develop. It was a list of weapons they had already created and then agreed to never use again. Nerve agents that could kill entire cities in minutes. Biological weapons that targeted specific genetic markers. Something called gray goo that could theoretically convert all matter on a planet into more copies of itself. And at the bottom of the file, one line that made Kessethan's blood run cold. All Ragnarok-class systems remain in active storage. Presidential authorization required for deployment. May the Creator forgive us if we ever need them again. These weapons still existed. Humanity hadn't destroyed them. They had simply locked them away. Kessethan pulled up Earth's application to join the Galactic Council, submitted 300 years ago. The official reason given was achievement of global peace and desire to join the galactic community. But now she understood the real reason. Humanity hadn't joined because they had become peaceful. They had joined because they were terrified of themselves. They had nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times, and they had decided the only way to survive was to put themselves under external oversight. The Galactic Council wasn't just a diplomatic opportunity for humanity. It was a cage they had willingly entered, and everyone had been stupid enough to think the cage was for their protection, not the galaxy's. Kessethan checked the current news feeds with trembling hands. The Crethean Empire had just launched a massive assault on human territory. 15 worlds attacked simultaneously. The Council was debating sanctions and diplomatic responses. The humans had issued an ultimatum that expired in 48 hours. "Oh no," Keston whispered. "Oh no, no, no." She tried to send an emergency message to the Council chairman but was told he was in closed session and couldn't be disturbed. She tried the Military Oversight Committee. Same response. Everyone was too busy debating humanity's inappropriate threats to listen to a junior researcher. Keston pulled up the military comparison files she had been compiling. The Crethean Empire had the second largest military in the galaxy. Their warships were considered state-of-the-art. Their warriors were legendary for their skill and ferocity. Then she looked at the human files she had just decrypted. The weapon systems humanity had used on themselves 300 years ago made Crethean technology look primitive. And those were the weapons they had publicly decommissioned. She had found references to Black Project research, classified systems that humanity had developed but never revealed. What had they been building in 300 years of peaceful council membership? She thought about humanity's behavior during their time on the council. Always diplomatic, always patient, always choosing negotiation over confrontation. She had thought it was cultural, maybe even biological. Some species were naturally peaceful, but humans weren't naturally peaceful. They were naturally terrifying. Everything in their history screamed it. They had fought each other with such creativity and determination that they had invented entirely new categories of war crimes. Their patience wasn't weakness. It was self-control, the kind of control that took enormous effort to maintain. And the Cretheans had just spent 18 months systematically trying to break it. Keston sent out a priority alert on every channel she could access. She didn't care about protocols anymore. The Cretheans must stand down immediately. They don't understand what they're awakening. Humanity's peaceful behavior is a choice, not an inability. I have evidence. Please, someone listen to me. But the message didn't reach the right people in time. Bureaucracy moved slowly and 48 hours moved fast. Deep in human space, on 100 hidden ships that had been waiting in the darkness between stars for decades, Admiral James Chen read Ambassador Vasquez's message. He looked at his bridge crew, men and women who had trained their entire lives for a day they had hoped would never come. "Begin protocol, Fenris," he said quietly. "God forgive us. Let's show them who we really are." Warlord Thraknor watched the display screen in his command center with deep satisfaction. 15 human worlds under simultaneous attack. The weak humans would finally understand their place in the galaxy. They would surrender, pay tribute, and learn to respect their betters. "Status report," he barked at his tactical officer. "All assault groups report successful initial strikes, Warlord. Human defensive systems are performing below expected capabilities. We anticipate complete control of all targeted systems within 3 planetary rotations." Thraknor nodded. This was easier than expected. For all their talk and diplomatic posturing, humans folded like paper when faced with real military force. "Broadcast our terms of surrender across all human communication channels. Tell them—" The tactical officer interrupted him, which was normally a death sentence. But the fear in her voice made Thraknor pause. "Warlord, we're detecting multiple energy signatures. Unknown ship classifications. They're everywhere." "What do you mean everywhere?" "In our home system. In every major Crethean system. They just appeared. No jump signatures, no advance warning. It's like they were already here, just invisible." Thraknor felt a cold sensation in his stomach, something he hadn't experienced since his first battle as a young warrior. "How many ships?" "Scanning now." "Initial count." "Warlord, this can't be right. I'm reading over 300 capital-class vessels in our home system alone. Each one is. Ancestors preserve us, they're massive. 5 times the size of our dreadnoughts." The main display shifted to show the space around the Crethean homeworld, where there had been nothing moments before. Enormous ships now hung in the darkness. They were dark gray, almost black, with lines that suggested brutal functionality rather than elegance. They looked like weapons that happened to have engines attached. A communication request came through on the command channel. Thraknor accepted it. Admiral James Chen appeared on the screen. He was human, of course, but he didn't look like the soft diplomats Thraknor had seen in council meetings. This human wore a black uniform with minimal decoration. His face was weathered, scarred, and his eyes held something that made Thraknor's warrior instincts scream warnings. "Warlord Thraknor," Chen said in perfect Krethian. "I am Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You have ignored our diplomatic warnings. You have attacked our civilians. You have mistaken our patience for weakness. This was a serious error." Thraknor forced confidence into his voice. "You think you can intimidate us with a show of force? We are Krethian warriors. We do not fear." "I'm not here to intimidate you," Chen interrupted. "I'm here to educate you. You see, your species respects strength. You listen to action, not words. So I'm going to show you exactly what you've been provoking for the past 18 months. The display changed. It showed detailed tactical maps of every Krethian military installation in the home system. Shipyards, orbital defense platforms, ground bases, ammunition depots. Every single one was highlighted with precise coordinates. Chen's voice continued, clinical and cold. "You have 47 military installations in your home system. Installation Alpha 1 houses your primary fleet academy. Coordinates 47.3 by 182.9. Your primary ammunition depot is at coordinates 23.8 by 201.4. Your planetary defense grid has 17 nodes, which I can list if you'd like. How do you... We've been watching you for decades. We know everything about your military. Every ship, every weapon, every tactical doctrine. We've known, and we've done nothing because we were trying to be civilized." Chen leaned forward. "But you needed a demonstration. So watch." One of the human ships moved toward an uninhabited moon on the edge of the system. A portion of its hull opened, revealing a weapon that looked deceptively simple. Just a long tube with electromagnetic coils running its length. "That's a magnetic accelerator cannon," Chen explained. "We call it a MAC gun. It fires a slug of tungsten at 90% the speed of light. This is a small one. The slug weighs only 5 tons. The weapon fired. There was no sound in space, but every sensor in the system screamed. The moon didn't just crack or shatter. It vaporized. In less than 2 seconds, a moon that had orbited the Krethian homeworld for billions of years simply ceased to exist, transformed into a rapidly expanding cloud of dust and plasma. The command center was silent except for the sound of ragged breathing. "That was one shot from one ship," Chen said. "We have 300 ships in your home system. Each one carries multiple weapons of similar or greater destructive capability. Your planetary shields could not stop even a single round." Another ship demonstrated a different weapon. Beams of coherent energy lanced out at an abandoned orbital station, one that had been scheduled for demolition. The station didn't explode. It simply disappeared, converted to its component atoms in a flash of light. "Directed energy weapons." Chen continued his lecture. "These ones are old technology for us. We have much better options, but I'm trying to keep this simple." A third ship released what looked like a swarm of insects. The swarm descended on an asteroid and within minutes had completely disassembled it. The asteroid was now a perfectly organized cloud of separated minerals floating in specific orbital patterns. Nanite swarms. They can be programmed to disassemble anything down to the molecular level. We use them for mining. They have other applications, Thraknor found his voice. This is a violation of Council weapons regulations. Weapons of mass destruction are illegal for Council members to use aggressively, Chen finished, but perfectly legal for self-defense. You attacked us, Warlord. Multiple times. We have the legal right to respond. The human admiral's face showed no anger, no passion. That was somehow more frightening than rage would have been. This wasn't a warrior in the grip of battle fury. This was someone making calculated decisions about controlled violence. You have 48 hours to withdraw from all human territory, Chen said. You will release all human prisoners immediately. You will pay reparations for the lives you've taken. If you comply, this ends here. We will return to our borders and continue trying to be civilized. And if we refuse? Thraknor asked, though he already knew he wouldn't refuse. Couldn't refuse. Then we will systematically destroy every military asset your empire possesses, not your civilian population, not your worlds, just your ability to ever threaten anyone again. And Warlord, we can do it in 72 hours. We've run the simulations. Chen stood up, preparing to end the transmission. Oh, and Warlord, we're having this same conversation with your Emperor right now, and with your military council, and with the commanders of every Krethian battle fleet. We want to make sure everyone understands the situation clearly. You're bluffing, Thraknor said weakly. No species could have hidden this much military power. We didn't hide it, Chen replied. We just didn't advertise it. There's a difference. You have 48 hours. Choose wisely. The transmission ended, leaving Thraknor staring at the display screen where 300 human warships hung in space around his homeworld like silent promises of destruction. The emergency council session had been going for 6 hours. Representatives from every member species watched as Emperor Drakthor formally surrendered the Krathian Empire's military authority to council oversight. It was unprecedented, humiliating, necessary. When the Krathian Emperor finished his statement and left the chamber, the council chairman turned to the empty speaking floor. Will the human delegation please come forward? Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked to the center of the chamber. But she wasn't alone this time. Admiral Chen walked beside her, still in his black uniform. Behind them came Captain Mitchell and 3 other senior military officers. The humans were making a statement without saying a word. The council chairman pulsed with agitated colors. Ambassador Vasquez, the council must address humanity's response to the Krathian aggression. While we understand you were provoked, the level of force displayed was proportional and restrained, Elena interrupted. Her voice was calm, but it carried an edge that made several representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. Admiral Chen, please present the evidence. Chen stepped forward and activated a holographic display. The Krathian Empire conducted 47 attacks on human territory over 18 months. Total human casualties 14,312. After our intervention, Krathian military casualties 0. Krathian civilian casualties 0. Krathian territory damaged 0. He changed the display to show tactical readouts. Human forces destroyed approximately 70% of Krathian military capability in 72 hours. We could have achieved 100%. We could have targeted civilian infrastructure. We could have done to them what they did to New Harmony 20,000 times over. But we didn't, Elena said. We showed more restraint in 3 days of war than this council has shown in 3 centuries of governance. A representative from the Valorian spoke up, his jellyfish-like body pulsing indignantly. You violated numerous weapons treaties. Those planet-killing devices, the molecular disassembly systems, the quantum disruptors, all illegal under council law. Elena smiled without humor. Really? Let me read you the exact text of the Council Weapons Convention. Article 12. Member species may not use weapons of mass destruction for offensive purposes or territorial expansion. Offensive purposes. We were defending ourselves. The law is quite clear, but you never declared these weapons. You hid your true military capability. We hid nothing, Chen said. We simply didn't advertise. Article 4 of the Council Charter. Member species retain the sovereign right to maintain defensive capabilities as they deem necessary. We deemed this necessary. We were correct. Kessethan stood up from her seat in the research section. She wasn't technically allowed to speak in council sessions, but she did anyway. They're telling the truth. I accessed humanity's historical records. I submitted my findings days ago, but no one listened. She activated her own display showing the horrifying images from Earth's past. Wars that killed millions, weapons that poisoned entire regions, technologies that could crack planets. This is what humans are capable of when fighting each other. What you just witnessed was them being careful, being precise, being merciful. Merciful? Another representative sputtered. They dismantled an empire's military in 3 days. They dismantled ships, Kessethan corrected. Not cities. Not planets. Not populations, ships, military targets only. With 0 civilian casualties. Do you understand how difficult that is? How much control that requires? They could have burned the Krathian homeworld to ash. They chose not to. Elena walked slowly around the speaking floor, making eye contact with different representatives. For 300 years, humanity has been exactly what you wanted us to be. Peaceful, patient, diplomatic. We absorbed attacks that would have driven other species to war within months. We filed complaints and sought legal remedies and tried so very hard to make the system work. She stopped walking and looked directly at the council chairman. And it failed. The system failed. The Krathians attacked us 47 times because they knew the council would do nothing. Because they thought we couldn't fight back. Because everyone in this room forgot a very important fact. Admiral Chen pulled out a data chip and held it up. This chip contains complete records of Earth's military history. The wars we fought among ourselves, the weapons we built, the horrors we inflicted on each other. I'm entering it into the official council record, removing all security classifications. Everyone should see it. Everyone should understand what we chose to walk away from. He plugged the chip into the chamber's central database. Holographic displays around the room began showing images. Nuclear explosions, trench warfare, biological weapons, concentration camps. The systematic destruction that humans had visited upon their own species. The chamber fell silent. Even species that had known about war found themselves shocked by the scale and efficiency of human violence. We didn't join the council because we achieved peace, Elena said softly into that silence. We joined because we were terrified of ourselves. We had nearly destroyed our own planet multiple times. We decided that the only way to survive was to put ourselves under external oversight. To build a civilization based on choosing restraint over instinct. She gestured at the images still playing around the chamber. That was 300 years ago. In that time, we've continued to advance. Our weapons are better. Our tactics are more refined. Our ability to wage war has increased exponentially. But we kept it all locked away because we made a choice. We chose to be better than our history. Captain Mitchell stepped forward. The Crethians forced us to undo that choice. They pushed and pushed until we had to push back. And when we did, we still showed more mercy than they deserved. That should terrify you. Not because of what we did, but because of what we didn't do. The council chairman seemed to deflate. What do you want, Ambassador Vasquez? A new treaty, Elena said. One that reflects reality instead of comfortable lies. First, any attack on human territory will be met with immediate military response. No more diplomatic delays. No more patience while our people die. Second, humanity will maintain our full military capability. Permanently. We won't hide it anymore, but we won't apologize for it either. We tried disarmament through secrecy. That clearly doesn't work. Third, a new council position. Keeper of the peace held by humanity, with full veto power over military actions by member species. The chamber erupted in angry protests. Multiple representatives stood up shouting. The idea of giving humans veto power was outrageous, unprecedented, unacceptable. Elena waited for the noise to die down. You're right. It is unprecedented. But so is having a member species capable of destroying any other member species within days. You have a choice. Accept these terms. Or we withdraw from the council and you lose any oversight of our military activities entirely. You would leave the council? The chairman asked, shocked. We would prefer not to, Elena said honestly. We came here to be part of something bigger than ourselves. To contribute to galactic peace. But we won't continue being the victims of that peace. We won't keep sacrificing our people to maintain comfortable illusions, Admiral Chen added. And consider this. Would you rather have us inside the council, committed to working within its rules or outside it, with no obligations to anyone but ourselves? The silence that followed was heavy with realization. The council needed humanity more than humanity needed the council. The balance of power had shifted and everyone in the chamber knew it. After a long moment, the chairman spoke. We will need time to discuss these proposals with our governments. You have 1 week, Elena said. After that, we assume the answer is no and proceed accordingly. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. The keeper of the peace position? We're not taking it because we want power. We're taking it because someone needs to. Someone needs to make the hard choices about when force is necessary. Someone needs to carry the burden of controlled violence so the rest of you can stay peaceful. She looked around the chamber one last time. We've been carrying that burden for 300 years. We were just doing it quietly. Now you know. Now everyone knows. The beast beneath the polished words is real, and it's been protecting you all along. Elena walked out of the chamber with her military escorts. The council representatives sat in shocked silence, processing everything they had just learned. Keston remained in her seat, watching the human delegation leave. She thought about Ambassador Vasquez's final words, the beast beneath the polished words. Humanity hadn't been weak. They had been strong enough to restrain themselves. That was a different kind of strength, one that most species never developed because they never needed to. Humans needed to because they were dangerous enough to themselves to require it. The galaxy had been protected all along, protected by humanity's choice to cage their own nature, protected by their decision to value peace despite being very, very good at war. and now everyone knew the price of breaking that cage. 6 days later, the Council voted unanimously to accept humanity's terms. The alternative was too frightening to consider. The new treaty was signed and humanity took up their role as keeper of the peace. The beast went back to sleep. But it never forgot, and neither would anyone else. 47 hours had passed since Admiral Chen's demonstration. 47 hours of tense waiting while the galaxy held its breath. The Crethean Empire had withdrawn from 14 of the 15 human worlds they had attacked. But Warlord Thraknor, commanding the assault on New Harmony, refused to retreat. Pride demanded it. Honor demanded it. To withdraw would be to admit that humans were stronger than Cretheans, and his warrior culture could not accept such humiliation. New Harmony was a small colony, barely 20,000 people. They were artists, teachers, farmers who had chosen a simple life far from Earth. They had no weapons, no defenses beyond basic shields. They were pacifists in the truest sense. Thraknor ordered the massacre to prove a point. If humans wanted to be strong, let them watch their weakest die. The slaughter lasted 3 hours before the human defense fleet arrived. By then, 20,000 civilians lay dead in burning settlements across the colony world. Something changed in the human command structure. The careful control, the measured responses, the endless patience that had defined 300 years of human behavior, it broke. Admiral Chen was relieved of command. The order came directly from Earth, from a committee that hadn't convened since the Unification Wars. A committee with a name that made even Chen go pale, the Last Resort Committee. The new orders contained one word. Fenris. Captain Sarah Mitchell took command of the response fleet. She had been 7 years old when her parents died in one of the earlier Crethean attacks. She had joined the military not for glory but for justice. Now finally she had authorization to deliver it. All ships, she broadcast on the fleet channel. We are now operating under Fenris protocol. Rules of engagement are unrestricted within parameters. Civilian populations remain off limits. Everything else is fair game. She looked at her tactical officer. Deploy the hunters. Across human space, ships that had been hidden even deeper than the defense fleet activated. These weren't the massive dreadnoughts that had intimidated the Cretheans. These were smaller, faster, and infinitely more dangerous. They had been built for one purpose: to show the galaxy what humanity was capable of when the leash came off. The Crethean fleet that had attacked New Harmony tried to retreat. They didn't make it. Human ships appeared around them, moving with impossible precision. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 11 minutes. Crethean shields failed as quantum disruptors tore apart the fundamental bonds that held them together. Weapons that should have been devastating bounced harmlessly off human defensive fields that bent physics in ways the Cretheans couldn't understand. Then the nanite swarms arrived. Not the mining swarms Chen had demonstrated. These were military variants designed for a different purpose. They didn't just disassemble ships. They deconstructed them in real time, sorting the materials into categorized streams while the crews scrambled for escape pods. Every escape pod was recovered. Every Crethean crew member was taken into custody, alive, unharmed. That was the truly terrifying part. The humans could have killed them all effortlessly, but chose not to. The mercy was almost worse than violence would have been. On the Crethean homeworld, Emperor Drakthor watched the reports with growing horror. His military commanders were screaming about honor and calling for total war. But he had not become emperor by being stupid. He pulled up historical records that his predecessors had ignored. Earth's admission records to the Council. He read them carefully, looking for what others had missed. There. A single line in the cultural assessment section, written by the Zenithari Observer 300 years ago. Humanity has achieved global peace through the deliberate suppression of their natural inclinations. Recommend careful monitoring to ensure this suppression is maintained. Suppression, not evolution, not cultural achievement, suppression. The humans hadn't changed. They had simply been holding themselves back. And his warlords had forced them to let go. Drakthor opened a direct channel to Captain Mitchell, bypassing all military protocol. Captain, I am Emperor Drakthor. I wish to negotiate surrender. You wish to speak with Admiral Chen, Mitchell replied coldly. Chen was replaced. I am speaking with the officer in command of... I am not in command of anything that matters to you, Emperor. The decisions being made now come from Earth. from people you've never met and hopefully never will. I'm just the hand that implements them. You want to surrender? Surrender to the Council, publicly, unconditionally. Maybe then Earth will recall us, and if I do this? Mitchell's face showed the first emotion Drakthor had seen from her. It was tired anger, old and cold. Then your military will be dismantled, your territory will be monitored, and your people will learn to live peacefully, or they won't live at all. We're done being patient. We're done being understanding. We tried it your way with words and diplomacy. Now we do it ours. You would commit genocide? No, Mitchell said, and her voice was absolutely certain. We would never do that. That's the difference between us and you. We have weapons that could sterilize your worlds in minutes. We have viruses that could target Crithian DNA specifically. We have systems that could collapse your sun, but we won't use them. Not because we can't, but because we choose not to. She leaned closer to the camera. But we will take away your ability to hurt anyone ever again. Every warship, every weapon, every military installation, gone. You'll keep your worlds, your people, your culture, but you'll never threaten anyone again. Drakthor thought about his options. He thought about the proud Crethian warrior tradition. He thought about his people's long history of conquest and glory. Then he thought about his children, and his grandchildren, and whether they would live to have children of their own. I accept your terms, he said quietly. I will address the Council within the hour. Smart choice, Mitchell said. But there's one more thing. Warlord Thraknor, the one who ordered the massacre on New Harmony. Where is he? His ship was destroyed. He died with honor, as a warrior should. No, Mitchell corrected. We recovered his escape pod. He's in our custody. He will face trial for war crimes under Council law. Don't bother asking for his return. That's not negotiable. Drakthor felt something he hadn't experienced in his 40 years as Emperor. Relief. Relief that someone else would handle Thraknor, that the warlord's actions would face consequences, that the Emperor himself wouldn't have to order the execution of a popular military figure. The humans were taking responsibility for justice, taking the burden of hard decisions, just like they had for 300 years. I understand, Drakthor said. Thank you, Captain. Mitchell looked surprised. For what? For stopping us before you had to destroy us completely. For showing restraint even now. For being better than we deserved. She nodded slowly. Get to the Council, Emperor. Make your surrender official. And pray we never have to have this conversation again.